All right, Mr. Duke Lowry, well, I think we are live. Yes, we are. Let's do a sound
Yeah,
check. Talk
so
to me.
I'm live and well right here. So is this the time to talk about people or not talk about people?
Well, let's talk about people, but let's go ahead and do a countdown. Let everybody kind of, let their friends know and go start the popcorn, our usual deal, and we will be back in 1 minute.
1 minute. That it's probably Robert Berry, as we've seen in the video there, that he's probably tuned in, hanging on every word.
Oh yeah, I'm quite sure that they are. But he's got the good old boy network around him, so not a care in the world. What's up,
Robert
everybody?
Berry, he is fresh on my mind today.
Absolutely, and we will talk about that some more too as I am sipping my tea. Let's see how many people we have online. Ooh, 18. Oh, looks like Rusty's on there. Hey, David, how's it going? Brother Ed Gonzalez is on there. Howdy. Y'all invite your friends,
Hello,
tag your
y'all.
friends.
I can't see who's on and who's not on, but hey, anyway.
Exactly. I'm behind the control panel, so I get to see all the puppet strings here.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I'm locked away in the mountains.
Yeah, okay. So we're not going to mess around too much tonight. We're going to go ahead and kind of dive into everything if I can keep my little earbud. Oh, Renee Hall is on. Hello, Renee. So I'm pulling up my little outline here, Duke, and
Yeah,
what do we want to
yeah.
start with?
Well, I wanted to dedicate this show tonight to Ted LeMay at Moore's Marine.
Really?
So, yeah, I just want to dedicate the show to him. And if anybody knows Ted LeMay, tag him, let him know that we're talking about him, and just that we're dedicating the show to him tonight.
Wow, that's interesting and awesome and totally unexpected. Are we just trying, we're going to eventually shift this over into a fishing and boating show, or what are we going to do?
It may be a boating show. That may be the subject of conversation in the near future, but we'll wait. We got to
Yeah,
deal with politics
yeah,
first.
I won't get too far into it or ask you to. I just know that if we're going to have a boating show, you kind of have to have a boat to do that, right?
You got to have a boat. That's a component. But I hear people can, beat the bank from the bank. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the way you're supposed to do it these days. I don't know.
All right, well, we'll find out one way or the other. So, okay, yes, this show is dedicated to Tommy LeMay at Moore's
Ted
Marine.
LeMay.
Ted LeMay, not Tommy, Ted LeMay at Moore's Marine. Great. Okay, so now that we've got a little bit of that housekeeping out of the way, I'm going to scan over here at our notes. Barry says he likes Ranger. I'm always a Champion fan, Barry, but Ranger's not too bad. They're still in business, even though they're owned by Johnny Morris. But anyway, all right, what's next on our agenda
Well, we just
here?
follow back up on our last show. We were dealing with the polar vortex or Snowmageddon, as some people said. I mean, we all were worried that we weren't going to make it, but looks like a lot of us did.
Yeah, I think pretty much for the most part. I know we've got some friends and people around the area that are now discovering some roofing problems and other things apparently after the freeze. I know some people are probably still dealing with plumbing issues and whatnot after the big freeze. So,
Well, that's an amazing thing. We've discovered a lot of interesting things as a result of Snowmageddon. I mean, apparently water is a big issue.
Water is a big issue, and a quick segue to Jamie Marie Pope. I don't have a boat. Does my opinion still matter? If we convert to a fishing show and you don't have a boat, it still matters because we want to convince you to get a boat and go fishing. All right. So let's get
And
back
there's
to the
always
topic.
Cajun Navy.
Absolutely. If we get me off on fishing and boats, we'll never get back to politics. All right.
But water, you realize, I mean, water with this Snowmageddon was a big old issue.
Well, it was a huge issue, and you know, I mean, I've kind of been on this thing that I didn't expect some of our current elected officials to be out there with, you know, heat guns trying to thaw pipes for people or digging up water mains with a shovel in the ice. But, you know, I've been on this deal about communications or the lack thereof. And so to me, that's one of the biggest things that came out of this was Benton. Sounds to me like they need to do their own water because getting water pushed that far from Bossier in a crisis like that seems like it's for the birds. And two, communications from our current elected officials should absolutely be better.
But Benton, I mean, Benton and North Bossier and East Bossier, I mean, where would they get water from?
Well, gosh, it's not like they have two actual reservoirs totaling about, what is it, about 4,000, give or take a few surface acres. And I hadn't run the math in a while. I'd have to calculate the water volume, but it seems like there's quite a few gallons of water at some place up there around Benton. What is the name of those lakes?
You know, we said earlier, Robert Berry was hot on my mind today, especially when I was having to write that $305 ransom check, only to see that, oh, by the way, there's no boat activity on the lakes because we got too much water.
Well, speaking of water, you know, I didn't realize that you were such a soothsayer.
A what?
A soothsayer. That's from like Shakespeare days. One of the few things I remember about Shakespeare.
Is that like a cousin to a contrarian?
It'd be more like a cousin to a palm reader. Who is a contrarian?
Now, you know, I do know where there's a palm reading place at.
Well, let's take a look at some digital palm readings from you. So I'm going to drag this is it Marty Carlson article?
Marty Carlson. Marty Carlson. Yeah, she was a reporter for the Bossier Press Tribune.
Yeah, and so I know the print's a little small, and honestly, I don't think we're worried about this whole article here, but I've highlighted this spot in red. So for everybody watching, we're about to get on a water tangent for a few minutes here. So there's your article. This was back during the District 8 House race. I think it was between you and, what's that guy's name? Jeff Thompson?
The infamous Jeff Thompson. I mean, who knew the old sage?
Yeah, and so that's your article. So let's do a little slightly enlarged version of that. Let's see if I can drag. Oh, here we go. Yes. And let's see, it says, Lowry said he believes one of the duties of a legislature is to address local issues, identifying one big issue locally as water availability. For local legislators, Lowry said, this should be a critical issue. We will not be able to continue to grow if we can't provide for basic needs.
Well, I think water's pretty damn basic, don't you?
Water everywhere and nary a drop to drink.
So, I mean, yeah, maybe I did go have some palm reading, but boy, is that not prophetic today, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. As a matter of fact, Kenneth Jenkins says, I see Duke's truck at the palm reader all the time.
You know, the water issue was a subject that even back then, I mean, was a big subject of conversation. Florida aquifer was decreasing in level, you know, repetitively, and it was, I don't know what happened to the issue.
Well,
but apparently now, Snowmageddon, apparently that's still an issue.
Apparently it's still an issue, and I want to share, I think this would be a good time, this Bossier Press article from January of 2003, and Kenneth says, let them eat cake. Yes, they have cake with half a glass of water. Here is this article. Let's see, let me get rid of this one here. So yeah, that's pretty cool. When was that issued? Back in 2008, 2010-ish, something like that?
Yeah, in 2010, 2011, something like that.
Yeah.
While
So,
other people were sitting in pews with the governor, get elected,
all right. So here is a 2003, January 30, 2003, Bossier Press article by James Q. Wellborn. And it says, highlighted, reportedly there is no connection to the lake that allows Bossier City to use the water if it were ever needed. What lake could we be possibly talking about?
That's an amazing thing right there, isn't it? History is entertaining, to say the least.
Well, yeah, especially since this is Cypress Reservoir and Black Bayou Reservoir, both of which were built to supply water to Bossier City and the local agricultural area, neither of which apparently, now, full disclosure, I've not done an information request and dug into it to see if any kind of connections were ever put in. I don't think that they have been. So all that water sitting there, and the only thing y'all can do is pay lakefront owner, homeowner, property owner fees, and everybody else pays ad valorem tax, and we get to see a Cypress District Park that, well, nobody really cares about.
Well, all I know is of a one request that fell under those parameters for water use for agricultural purposes, and it was denied. And that would
Denied,
have
you
been a
say?
request. Yeah, it was denied, and I don't know all of the circumstances, but that was by the Atkins Saunier plantation that they formed, or they farmed catfish and rice, and they wanted to use water from the reservoir, which that was what the original monies were appropriated for, was water for the city and water for agricultural purposes. But yet, historically, as I understand it, the CBBR turned that request down.
Well, that'll be something else for us to dig into and just see what other shenanigans we can find going up there with Robert Berry and the rest of the Cypress District Board members, and see why, because you're right that, you know, the recreational use of those lakes is secondary. The fishing is secondary, the water skiing is secondary, the nice lakefront property and all that is actually secondary to the primary purpose of being water reservoirs. You would think somebody would be smart enough to actually figure out or write legislation that would allow the town of Benton to be able to draw water from the reservoirs that are literally right there in Benton, and then they wouldn't have to pipe it all the way from Bossier City and lose pressure when everybody turns their faucets on.
Yeah, you know, and the thing was I think Jane Smith was a state representative in District 8. Henry Burns was a state representative in District 9. And, you know, this was 10 or more years ago, and it was discerned at that time that, you know, water in future capacity was an issue that needed to be addressed. And there was even discussion about trying to create a processing facility for water at Camp Benton for the expanded growth in the parish, you know, on the eastern part of the parish, Halton. But, you know, it begs the question, where is the parish on that?
Yeah, exactly. And you know how it is trying to get the parish in on anything concerning Cypress, like pulling eye teeth. My wife says, I'm so glad we have well water. I am glad too, because fortunately for us, we didn't run out of water during the ice storm, or water pressure. So maybe, yeah, that's something we need to dig into. Okay, so let's move forward. So we know we have water issues. We know that because of the ice storms and what happened there, and the fact that we have ongoing issues with the Cypress District and how much money, their burn rate of money and all this other stuff. And folks, there'll be a lot more on that coming up. We have some new information. And by the way, everybody, we're driving forward here to some election and voting machine issues we're going to talk about. So for those of you that are waiting for that, just stay tuned. We're getting to it.
Rex, let me chime in here just a second. I just got a message from John Milkovich, and he wants to come on the show and talk about the BESE race. But we're going to have to do that another night because I think all he can do is call in while he's driving, and we don't want to. I mean, he wasn't going to call in. I guess somebody's driving. But I guess we went live. He saw the show, and he's wanting to figure out how to get in. I was like, well, sorry, you got to be on a live show.
Yeah, we got to think. Yeah, we got to think safety first. So Senator Milkovich, absolutely be glad to have you on. And yes, soon as schedule allows and all that. And let's talk about the BESE race because we hadn't really talked about it yet anyway. So I think that's a great idea.
Hey, he's the independent in that race.
Really? Okay. And I don't really know him personally. I think I met him once or twice, but what I know of him seems to be a pretty good guy.
That'll be an interesting dynamic. I know we're kind of getting off track a little bit, but that'll be an interesting dynamic with all the folks that are disenchanted with the Republican Party. And you've got Republicans, you got one independent, and you got the Democrats on the left. I wonder how many people will swing.
Look, it pains me to admit because I've been a Republican, all my life, but I am still not a happy camper with the Republican Party. I'm one of those potentially in the middle as far as Republican or another party type situation.
But Amy Coney Barrett, she's a conservative. She's pro-life.
I know. Mike said she's a conservative. Mike reminded us he has her in his contacts list and was going to call and congratulate her, and she basically just turned her nose up at Trump again. So whatever.
Bill Cassidy. My gosh, all these conservatives.
Yeah, Brother Ed Gonzalez from over in Shreveport says he knows him. He is a good man, talking about John Milkovich. All right.
So Rex, the last show also we were talking about the three amigos and something came across my purview here this week and it just really caught my eye and I'm just wondering if the New York Times ain't in your future.
What? The New York Times? Well, I guess I'm kind of stepping up in the world here.
We got a potential Walt Whitman here or what we got working.
Right. Walt Whitman. Yeah. So, all right, let me switch screens again here. What were you, let's see, pre-show you were calling me Mark Twain of all things? I don't think so. Maybe the Inquirer guy.
I was trying to determine which it was.
All right, so let's share this up. So, of course, I'm tooting my own horn, not that I'm that conceited, really. So, this is an article that I wrote, a little short article that I wrote for Focus SB Magazine / The Inquisitor. For those of you that don't know, John Settle purchased The Inquisitor and is doing it as The Inquisitor / Focus SB. It's actually kind of neat. It's like one paper. And you flip it one way, it's the Inquisitor, flip it over the other way, and it's Focus SB. And so he's still doing the police reports and all that, but he's also trying to get some more community-oriented articles going as well, and not just be, kind of a tabloid-style deal. Anyway, so he reached out and wanted to know if I'd be interested in writing some articles about Shreveport and Bossier. And so this was my first one, Kissing Babies and Shaking Hands Just Will Not Cut It Any Longer in Politics. Can you guess what that was about? I know the text is a little small to read, everybody, but get a copy of the paper and you can read it.
Is that got something to do with like traveling from Marshall or something along them lines? I don't know.
Why, yes. Yes, it does. So let me go to the next shot here. So, in full disclosure, look, like I said, it doesn't matter whether I endorse anybody or not, but it's not like I'm endorsing Shane Cheatham or the other three amigos, Chris Smith or Tommy Chandler, but I'm just telling you, on social media, they're crushing it, at least South Bossier. So Shane did reach out to me to make sure he could have my permission to share the article, and of course I said absolutely. Anything I say, you can stick on a billboard for all I care. He also emailed John Settle because he liked the article, and I didn't mention any names or prop any individuals up. I just mentioned in an article that social media is here to stay, like it or not, say it's right or wrong, and those people that embrace it, as we've seen from every political race for the last 5 or 6 years, you need to be on social media. And so anyway, Shane shared out the article and, you know, said that he thought the information was great and all that. And a couple of comments there.
Well, you know, not to cut you off, but I noticed some interesting things already. I mean, the rumor I heard was Low Walker doesn't do signs. Well, guess what? I'm seeing 40-foot dual tandem gooseneck trailers with signs in Bossier now with Low Walker stamped all over them.
He's got one right up the street for me. And by the way, Mayor Low Walker, when I pull up to the red light at Hickory Ridge and Shed Road right there, it's not so easy to see to the left for me to pull out at the red light right there because that sign is in the way. If you're the second or...
Are you saying there's a safety issue?
I'm absolutely saying it. If you're the second or third car back and you have to stop at the red light, coming from Hickory Ridge, turning right, or I suppose left, onto Shed Road right there, where the Walmart Marketplace is, there is this big, gargantuous, god-awful political sign right there.
Well, you know Robert Berry, don't you?
Why, yes.
Well, you just get him to call one of the judges for you.
Oh, yeah, just call one of his good old boyfriends. Boom. They'll make it go away.
I mean, that's what I heard. I don't know about you. That's what I heard.
Right. But here's the point of my article is that while some politicians weren't around until after, literally after the ice started thawing and then did some press conferences, some of the political candidates who were trying to come in with this idea of a new wave of politicians were out there literally handing out food and water, helping people when they could, and they were sharing it on social media. I'm a tech guy, you know, it's like part of my business. Full disclosure, I'm not helping Shane Cheatham, I'm not helping Chris Smith, and I'm not helping Tommy Chandler, and you know, I can't vote for Shane because I'm not in his district. I hadn't really decided on mayor yet, although I'm leaning pretty hard one way, and Chris Smith is an at-large candidate. If he does a little more activity up here in North Bossier, because, you know, the truth is they're focusing on South Bossier, so hint, you guys at large, you might want to focus a little bit on North Bossier as well.
Well,
anyway.
You know, Rex, that brings up an interesting point. You segue into it good. I mean, I don't live in Bossier City, so I can't vote for any of them.
Right.
But what I will tell you is it just seems crazy to me what some of these folks are doing campaigning for these council seats. You would think they were running for president.
Well, you would think so. I mean, they're getting with it. But, you know, hey, it's part of the game. They're trying to take over.
I'm talking about if there's a blade of grass that's swinging in the wind just free, they're trying to nail a damn sign to it.
Oh, yeah, I know. Here we go again, the sign wars. It's like a recurring thing.
Look, you know as well as I do, when people are putting as much emphasis into running for a council seat, they're actually trying to do something else.
Well, yeah, it's a stepping stone to be mayor eventually or whatever else they want to do. Yeah, we all know that. I mean, there's no hiding that fact. But speaking of that, before we get too far away from it, I want to share this one video clip. It's just a few seconds of Mayor Low Walker when he did his press conference about the situation with the water and all that. So hold on just a second. I'm gonna roll this.
Okay.
Now we'll entertain questions. Hopefully there won't be any.
When did you say the boil order?
Now we'll entertain questions. Hopefully there won't be any.
When did you say the boil order?
It was a little low, but did you catch what he said?
Was this a Joe Biden moment?
No, it was. He said, hopefully there won't be any questions. Now, he was kind of saying it jovially, so I'll give him a little bit of benefit for the doubt. But if you watch the whole thing, you could kind of tell he was really hoping there weren't going to be any questions.
What is going on down there? What is going on down there?
I don't know. Hey, like I said, granted, I'm sure driving from Marshall was tough during the ice storm, and it's not like I expected the mayor out there to, have a shovel in his hand and a pickaxe going through the ice to find broken water mains or whatever was going on, but the communications or lack thereof,
I just
that's
need
the
to
bad
know.
part.
I just need to know who's Jeff Thompson and Richard Ray supporting. That's all I need to know. That ought to tell me what I need to know.
You can just follow suit. Just grab their coattails and ride along right behind them. Yeehaw!
I just need to know who they're supporting. That'll tell me what I need to know.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of voting. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Brother Ed said, why didn't he want to answer the questions? Because, Brother Ed, he was a little bit absent during the ice storm. I hate to give Shreveport credit these days, especially the mayor of Shreveport, Adrian Perkins over there, but it just seemed to me the appearance was. I'm not saying Lo Walker wasn't on the phone trying to handle things, I have no idea, but the appearance to me and a lot of people was that Adrian Walker, the mayor of Shreveport, let me put that nicely.
Perkins.
Perkins.
We can't have the same mayor or half Shreveport, Bossier.
Yeah. All right. So Adrian Perkins, current mayor of Shreveport, recently failed Senate candidate, seemed to be doing a little better job at communicating with the public than our mayor over here in Bossier. And we had Benton without water and streets that had ice on them, and it was pretty much kind of chaos over here too. All right. So let's move on. Enough of giving Mayor Walker.
So at this point, for everybody watching, however many that is, I don't know. It may just me and you, right, watching each other.
Keep talking for a second, Duke.
The show, last show, we got off talking about the state of Louisiana was getting into the voting machines. We're trying to replace all our voting machines because they're aging and they're not making any parts for them anymore. They're needing to be replaced, and the legislature's already budgeted quite a bit of money for it, and the Secretary of State moved forward. Ironically, I'm pretty sure the date is January, like late January, moved forward with what's called an RFP, request for proposals.
Right.
Meaning that you'd get any companies that wanted to submit a bid for electronic voting machines, they would submit them in. And we shared in the last show that a lot of people were mad because they were calling the Secretary of State. They didn't want Dominion voting machines, and the Secretary of State's office wouldn't talk to them. And we kind of got into the why on that a little bit. The fact of the matter is that they're in what's quote unquote a dark period. When you submit for bids out there, you have a period of time that you can't talk. But we did a little more research since that last show, and there's a little bit more to it. There's some more things have happened, and there's a lot more things about to happen. And we're going to kind of dig into it a whole lot deeper and share the information. A lot of you, your eyes are going to glaze over. But I promise you, if you hang in here with us and you listen to what we're going to share with you in the documents, you're going to have a better understanding than the majority of folks out there on this. And you say, well, why do I care? Because we care about our country. We care about having fair, honest, legitimate elections. If we don't have that, we don't have a country. And all of us need to be able to articulate this information and share it out there and make sure that there's correct information. Because if there's not correct information, that's where people that are wanting to take advantage.
Well, and I agree, and pardon the interruption a second ago, I forgot to plug my MacBook back in. We were about to run out of battery and go silent. So I had to take care of that.
Good.
Yeah, but going to what you're saying, if everybody watches the little ticker that I've got scrolling at the top of the screen, it's mentioning the Bossier elections coming up on March the 20th. Early voting is March the 6th through the 13th. I think I got those dates right. And if you want to donate to us, you can go to bossierwatch.org and donate. But the main thing is the election's coming up. And so when we talk about this election integrity, We're not just talking about it on a national basis. That certainly is part of it, but even on a local basis, parish level, state level, etc., it matters in all of that. David Womack put up a comment, election integrity is of high importance. Absolutely agree. I would say it's arguably one of the most important things. If we don't trust the voting system, then, I mean, what can we trust? Everything else will eventually turn into chaos, worse than it is. All right, so what do we want to pull up and as we kind of dive off into these weeds a little bit, what do we want to start and show first?
Well, you know, in the notes there, I guess what most folks would ask at this point is, to bring you up to speed where we're at right now today in the RFP process.
Mm-hmm.
So
do we want to go ahead and show that RFP, just get it up on the screen, and then we can kind of talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could. You could kind of scroll through it, I guess, and show.
You know, just to do a little bit of show and tell. So, like you said, I'll pull this up. An RFP is a request for proposal. Basically, it's kind of, and correct me here if I'm wrong, Duke, but it's kind of getting a document out there that companies can bid on. It could be an RFP for purchasing bulldozers to repair the highways or whatever it is. In this case, it's for acquisition of a new voting system for the Louisiana Secretary of State.
And it is I want to say, what was it, 146, 160, 170 pages? I can't remember the exact number.
126 I'm showing on the PDF.
126. Okay, well, I was overshooting it a little bit. And we filtered through a lot of these pages and kind of jumped to the high points. There's a lot of insignificant things in there that would just bore you to death.
Right. Well, I'll go ahead and let me fast forward us here. So I'm going to try to enlarge this a little bit, so bear with me here for a second. Okay, so what they do in this RFP, one of the first things is they do just a general background. You know, how are we voting now? What's the background of the voting systems in Louisiana as far as using machines? And it says since the mid-50s, Louisiana has conducted all of its elections on voting machines. We have a commitment to providing accurate, efficient, blah, 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 all that. The first voting machines were these, I hope I'm saying this right, Chute 2.5 lever voting machines. Thereafter, Louisiana has used what they call DRE, direct recording electronic voting machines for election day, and then touchscreen electronic voting machines for early voting. And all of us that have voted have seen these machines and actually used them in the state of Louisiana.
And there's only a handful of states that still have these machines. We're one of them. And one of the problems with them is there is no audit trail that you can have with these machines. There's no paper ballot. They open up those machines and it has a digital number in the machine. Correct, Rex?
That's correct. Now, there is a piece of paper that is printed out that shows the total votes cast for each candidate. It doesn't identify your votes. Let me be clear about that, because I had a friend of mine kind of question about that. He thought that you could go look up your voting record on the GoVote or Secretary of State's site, and that's not true. You can go look and see them, and we can pull from the Secretary of State somebody's voting history as far as how many times you voted, what party you're registered for, and all that. But I can't go pull up and see who Duke voted for president or who Duke voted for the last governor's race or any of the other races. The registrar of voters, the Secretary of State, they don't even know that. It's an anonymous ballot or secret ballot. So you can't go pull up and see who you voted for president.
Now, Rex, just so that our viewers will know, there is a circumstance where voters have to sign a waiver of secrecy.
Good point. Good
now,
point.
Not that it's pertinent right here at the moment, whatever, but we're trying to educate folks here and help people to understand. But in what circumstance would anybody sign a waiver of secrecy unless they were like you, hard-headed, and me, hard-headed, which I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah, I mean, I can make the argument that we shouldn't have secret ballots anymore, but again, that's all part of a whole other discussion, so I'm not going to get too far off on that tangent. But you're right, good safety point. There is a circumstance, and it involves basically mail-in ballots, only not by the Postal Service, where a waiver has to be signed by the voter that they understand that their vote will no longer be secret. And the reason is the vote has to be emailed. And
And the majority of those are
military, overseas, special exceptions, or special cases, I'll call it. That's my term.
that would sure be an easy vote to audit, wouldn't it?
Well, it would. And so let me be clear. Full disclosure, I was on the Board of Election Supervisors for about 3 years. And so for 3 years, I was, at the courthouse relatively frequently during election time, working with our registrar of voters and our clerk of court's office. And so I have zero reason to think that any manipulation would be done in Bossier Parish whatsoever. So we're not saying this about our own parish necessarily. We're saying that the possibility exists for this to happen. Whether it does or not, it's there.
I think I can say this with confidence that Bossier Parish is probably the model for how elections should be conducted. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely would agree. I can tell you again that our registrar of voters, Stephanie Adgie, and our clerk of court, Jill Sessions, run a tight ship up there as far as integrity and making sure everything's on the up and up.
So before we go too much further into the RFP as it exists right there, the current status of the RFP. We explain what the RFP is. Everybody understands that that's the request for proposals from any company that if you have an automatic smoke signal generating machine, if you want to submit it to be the election device for the state of Louisiana, by all means, submit your proposal. But as it currently stands for this process that the Secretary of State started, it's at a standstill. Now, when we talked about the dark period and when we talk about the standstill, those are two different things. The dark period means that the people submitting the bids and the governmental agency accepting the bids can't talk about the subject or answer detailed questions or what have you. That's one thing. But in the RFP, there is a provision that the state or the governing body can stop the process for cause or for a reason, any reason that they so choose. And as it would turn out, there has been a letter of, I don't know if I'd say a letter of protest, but maybe that's what it is, a letter of protest by one of the companies who said that this process is geared to where only one company can submit a proposal that would meet the requirements the state has put forward.
Well,
and I think we've got the document, maybe.
Well, let's pause right there for a second. So I want to do two things. I want to highlight, since you mentioned one company, I want to highlight that our current system, and you're right, Duke, I think our system, we're the only state in the union right now that uses this particular system that's been around for decades. And I can tell you that these machines do not go online for anything. They save the votes basically on a card. That card is pulled from each individual machine and read using a device, and then, like I said, a paper printout of the total votes for each candidate or each issue in a race is printed out, and that information is electronically submitted, for instance, from Bossier Parish down to Baton Rouge via secure connection, but the information that's transmitted to Baton Rouge has to match that paper count. And that segues in, let me close this out of the way for just a second, we'll come back to it. That segues into a question that we have in the comments What exactly is the voting committee and what do they do? Someone mentioned that earlier today and I really wasn't sure. So as an example, when the machines are tabulated and those printouts are made, then as part of the Board of Election Supervisors, which is the registrar of voters, the clerk of court, a Republican representative from the Republican Parish Executive Committee in that parish, Robert Wright, we're not using the short word, and a member or representative from the Democratic Parish Executive Committee, and an appointee from the governor. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on the Board of Supervisors. When I was on there, and it's still the same, we're responsible for helping maintain the integrity of the elections in each individual parish. So the votes are not official until all of our signatures are on them, signing and attesting to the fact that these counts are correct and have been done in accordance with the law. And so, Jamie, I hope that answers your question there, and it kind of ties back into what you were talking about, Duke. That one company, most people don't realize right now that our machines are Dominion machines. Granted, they're not the same as the rest of the states, but they are currently Dominion machines.
Historically, people have to understand the machines that we have now were made by a company, and you know, over the years you've had mergers and companies buying companies and what have you, and the machines that you hear about on TV, the machines we have, they were made by the company that you hear about on TV, but these were made by that company before that company was cool.
I almost spit my sweet tea out. Somewhere, who was that?
That's
Barbara
basically the way to
Mandrell?
understand it.
Yeah, okay. I guess that's a good safety point. All right. So let's move on a step forward.
So
What's the controversy? What's the
now,
controversy?
well, the controversy is you know, we had a protest filed by one of the competing companies, and I don't know if you have that. I
The RFP protest document?
Yeah, that one right
yes,
there.
I do. Look, I'm almost organized tonight, thanks to your good notes.
That makes one of us, eh?
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. This is the February 17th, 2021 Office of State Procurement, State of Louisiana. Okay, your reference is directed to RFX number blah, blah, blah for the RFP for acquisition of new voting system. A protest of the specifications has been received. All deadline dates, blah, 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 have been suspended effective February 12th, and any responses received as of this date will be impounded pending the resolution of the protest. Okay, so tell us kind of in everyday person terms, what does this mean, dude?
Basically, everything is on hold until I guess the Secretary of State. There is a board, you know, kind of like an election commission board that's established, and so that folks know, for any decision, you know, or final decision on which machines or what have you is chosen, the Secretary of State, that board, and the Joint Legislative Committee has to all agree for this to be, for whichever machine they choose to be picked, which that's going to be an uphill climb as it stands right now, because with this protest letter saying that the RFP was, these are my words, slighted and biased to one particular company, I don't know where they go from here without starting over.
So let me ask you this, and we may have talked about it at the last show. What is the rush to do this? I think it's like $100 million project. I mean, the state's supposed to be broke. Why are we spending, or why do you think we're spending or trying to spend $100 million to upgrade the voting machines? I mean,
well,
nobody questions Louisiana's voting tabulations, really.
Again, our voting machines are old. They're not even making them anymore. And I think they're even having difficulty in getting parts to fix them. That
Good point.
they're old.
Yeah.
It's that simple. But I would argue that your point is right on cue, and it's hovering over the target. Why is there the rush given the election that we just had? You would think that we would, wait a minute, take a big, huge, deep breath, and maybe we need to look at doing something a little different here because there's unanswered questions. I mean, if you're a Democrat, oh, yeah, there's no questions. Yeah, no, there's no questions whatsoever. But I'm sorry, 76 million people out there apparently believe there is a question.
Yeah,
And that question ain't been answered.
look, I agree with you. You know, as a tech guy, as a matter of fact, we were just kind of having this discussion earlier today, is that, you know, whether it's better to try to fix something that would cost more money than buying new. You know, is it worth it to keep putting that money in? And so if it's a parts issue, like I know like the control boards that are in the current machines, you know, they're straight up from the Stone Age. So I would imagine that, yeah, getting parts for those is going to be a problem. So I can see there being a little bit of a time crunch on trying to do this. But to your point, it's a marketing and branding thing right now. With the controversy that just went on nationally, whether you voted for Biden or whether you voted for Trump, right now Dominion voting systems is the equivalent of Satan to a lot of people. And why there would be a rush this close to just coming off of this election to do this RFP and pretty much gear it towards Dominion. Yes, other companies can bid on it, but it's straight up geared towards Dominion. This is just bad PR all the way around, the way I see it.
You know what I think? I mean, and I like Kyle Ardoin, I really do.
Right.
And he follows the lead of the folks in his office. I think really he was hopeful that it would just kind of go through and there wouldn't be no backlash wave, nothing.
Right.
That's what I hope. I hope it would just flow through.
Yeah, David Womack says if the RFP is technically specific towards one contractor, it could be against bid laws. Maybe so. I mean, it doesn't say it has to be Dominion, you know, bidding, because obviously that would be highly illegal. But if you actually read through it, it is skewed one way for sure. Let's see if we got another comment.
So this week, Rex, Kyle Ardoin went down. I don't know. It may have been East Baton Rouge Parish. It may have been somewhere. Oh, my bride there. Politicians acting like they are doing something to further election integrity. Yeah.
Keyword acting.
Politicians are good actors, no doubt.
Yes, they are. So, okay. So back to what your point that you were headed towards.
Kyle Ardoin showed up to a Republican women event. I think East Baton Rouge. I'm not sure.
I think you're correct.
And he got hammered. I'm talking about, if you know that old saying that parents are the bones that kids sharpen their teeth on. Well, he was the damn bone.
Well, I heard that those women weren't having any of what he had to say.
No, sorry, Bob, they were not. So after that, there was this misinformation letter put out by Kyle Ardoin.
Okay.
And
let's see if I can cue up the misinformation letter. Let's see. Here we go. A letter from Secretary of State. Okay. Is this the letter you're referring to?
that is it right there. So if you drop down, I guess you could say that would be, they're more like sentences, but we'll say paragraph. I'll call them that, but I think it's number 8.
Let's
So,
see.
1,
1,
2,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, okay, I got it right there. There we go. So I'm kind of pulling it up about 2/3 of the way up. Louisiana's current voting machines never have had internet connectivity, And the RFP sets very clear guidelines for new voting equipment. No machine can have the capability to be connected to the internet. Well, look, I'm a tech guy, but hey, that sounds great.
That sounds great. I mean, that's what everybody, that's a fear that everybody has, is that the machine, China's hacking into them and they're making sushi or whatever in our computer. Who
Right.
knows? So, but that's got to make you ask a few questions. If you think back about our machines and our elections, I mean, you've been election supervisor, you know about some of the machines, and there's some questions about that connectivity, isn't there?
Well, yes. So, according to the representative from the Secretary of State's office who goes to each parish, you know, they send people from the Secretary of State's office to each parish, each voting location, registrar voters office and all that, each election, and they kind of oversee the tabulating of the votes, and they scan the mail-in ballots, scan those to tabulate those, and then, of course, like I said, there is a paper printout made of the totals, and then those totals are sent down to Baton Rouge. Now, let's think about that concept for a second. Let's just talk about Bossier. On election night, the results for Bossier are in Bossier. And usually within a couple of hours, we have the results on the news, or at least they're, you know, getting precincts turned in. They're at some percentage of the votes being tabulated and all that. And for that matter, you can pull it up online, or any of the local news sources have those results. Now, I know for a fact, even with a police escort, you probably can't get from here to Baton Rouge in a matter of 2 hours. So how do those votes get down to Baton Rouge?
They're transmitted some kind of way, but what I would ask you to do is go to the RFP document and second paragraph? That don't sound right.
Yeah, there's a lot of paragraphs. Let's see if we can find it here. So here's the thing, folks, is according to the Secretary of State's office, it's a dedicated fiber line that runs from each parish to Baton Rouge. I don't think so, but I'll just leave it at that. So those results have to be transmitted. Now, the fallback or the backup is they have to match the paper. So if the results that Baton Rouge gets don't match the paper that's printed out and up here in Bossier Parish that the Board of Election Supervisors have to sign off on, then we know, hey, there's something happened, and you know, we need to double check those numbers. I'm not saying that's ever happened. Maybe it has. I don't remember it ever happening while I was on the board up here. So there is a paper backup of, again, I'm trying to keep emphasizing this, the totals only. We can't see your individual votes except in the special case where you sign a waiver because of an email ballot. Okay, so let's see if we can find this. And you said...
I think there is a part missing on the RFP document second paragraph. I don't know that I'm going to find that or not, but maybe...
Okay, and do you remember what it says, and I can search for it real quick?
Yeah, we were talking about the types of machines because, as you know, we use the DRE machines for the election day and early, well, they didn't use them for early voting, but then we also use a different type of machine for mail ballots.
Ah, yes, and therein lies a challenge too. Let me see if I can find that. That was a Canon.
Canon DR-G2140. Those are the scanners that are used to scan the mail ballots.
Okay.
And we did a little research on those.
Yeah, here we go right here. I'm on page 7, and see right here, second paragraph. And sorry, folks, I can't highlight it in real time right here. But it says, for absentee by mail voting, paper ballots are cast on marked sense paper and read by Canon DR-G2140 digital scanners in all jurisdictions. They're printed out under contract by Secretary of State. has current inventory of 110 scanners allocated for all 64 parish registrar voters offices, in-house testing, and backup.
Now, notice a couple of things there. It says, are cast on mark sense paper, a specific kind of paper that's ordered under contract by the Secretary of State. Well, that's interesting. So, you know, I wonder about these DR-G2140s and their specs.
Yeah, I didn't have time to dig into that because I wondered that too. Whether they can sense the different types or weights of paper, or maybe the different translucencies or opaqueness of paper. I don't know.
Well, we're concerned with connectivity right now, and
That's true.
You got the photo of the DRG, right?
Let's see, the photo of the DRG. Yeah, that's in the one that Kyle, the Secretary of State, said was scammed from the Secretary of State's page or something.
No. The DR-G2140 doc.
DRG. Let me see if I can find that. Canon. Here we go. Yep, I got it. Let me click out of here and let's go over here. And folks, I realize we're way off into the weeds with this, but somebody's got to try to explain it to you. Okay, here we go.
You're learning if you're paying attention.
Right.
So right there in the top of that first sentence right there,
Yeah.
and if you flip to the right there, you'll see both USB and Ethernet connectivity.
Now, Ethernet, in simple terms, means networking. Now, that can be a local network inside your house, inside your office, same thing, or on a WAN or wide area network, also known as a connection to the internet.
So, but Rex, this machine right here, the Secretary of State in that misinformation letter said that no machine is connected to the internet or has the ability, even has the stuff to connect to the internet. So
Let's see.
this machine right here, is he accurate in that?
Well, he's not
Technically,
accurate
yeah,
if the Ethernet port's there, it has the capability, whether it's utilized or not.
Well, if it was plugged in, it could access the internet, but it doesn't have Wi-Fi. It doesn't have a modem. So without an Ethernet cable hooked up to it, it can't connect to the internet, right?
Well, sorta not, because it's connected to what other device? Where's the other end? Where's the other end of the USB cable?
I'm curious. You were an election supervisor. You've been up there. I mean, is there another device that this scanner is hooked to?
Why, yes, that would be a Secretary of State issued laptop. And I'm pretty sure it was running Windows, unfortunately.
Not a laptop.
Yes, a laptop. Now, in full disclosure, I never did walk over there to see if the laptop did not have the circuitry for an Ethernet connection or the circuitry for a Wi-Fi connection. In other words, could it potentially be connected to a network? But I'm also pretty sure they use that same laptop to transmit the data down to Baton Rouge, and they didn't send it by carrier pigeon.
But interestingly, in the RFP and the misinformation letter, it didn't talk about the laptops or what model numbers they were. It talked about the scanners that were used.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it clearly. But it clearly says here.
Of the laptops.
You're right. And here's what I think. And again, I'm not accusing our Secretary of State or the office or, for that matter, any of the 64 parishes of registrar voters of doing any shenanigans with this. Again, what we're trying to portray here and get across is the potential is there. And sometimes when you have non-tech people trying to interject and discuss technical stuff, that's where they can get caught. Just like this. Now, again, I'm not saying anything has happened or went wrong, but the potential is definitely there, because I can tell you this scanner is connected to a laptop when they scan those ballots. They have the laptop there to read the ballots, to read the information coming from the scanner.
So moving right along from that, that was the one example. And because this material is so dry and all of y'all watching, you're going to have to forgive us. And I mean, do you want to stretch a second, take a little break? I tell you what, I know how we're going to exercise your mind here. Go ahead right now, click share. If you hadn't clicked share on this video, go ahead and click share and click like.
Yeah.
I mean, we're screenshotting who's on the page watching. So if you didn't click like, we're going to send you a bill.
Yeah, and you know, Jamie Marie said that I've been seeing a lot of pigeons around here lately. Hey, you could use the carrier pigeons to go get people to watch the video and like and share the video too. We'll go old school. It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, look, if you're paying attention to this, we love you. You're the folks that are going to make the difference, because we're the folks that are going to educate the majority of the people out there that are going to make a difference in this deal. And we're not trying to steer it one way or the other, but what we want fairness. We want crystal clear elections where the legitimate winner wins. We don't want there to be questions.
I agree 100%. Rusty says, why not barcodes? Define, hey Rusty, if you're still watching, define what you want to use the barcodes for, and I'll see if I can give you an educated guess on that. Let's do another comment or two while folks are grabbing popcorn. No more mail-in voting. Any system connected to the internet can be hacked. We need to go back to paper ballots one election day. Now let me throw up a little deal with this, because again, I'm a tech guy, of course. There's a problem with paper ballots too. We can just go right back to the year 2000 and Florida and hanging Chad. That is a problem. The challenge here is, and let me go off in the weeds for a second, we can't know, one, we can't ever trust everything 100% because we have to have humans involved. Just to put it bluntly. There's no way around that. I mean,
so
I trust.
That's a good segue, Rex. Humans involved. I shared a link with you about ballot stuffing, if you recall.
Oh, yes. Yes. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go.
When you talk about having humans involved, there's people that believe that you can't ballot stuff. They think that's a joke. That's a lie. That's fake news.
Yeah, here we go. Let's see. What?
This was an article in the New York Post from, and he was a Democrat, and he was basically confidentially talking about how to fix ballots, how to stuff mail ballots. They perfected it. They knew how to do it.
Yeah, and so it goes back to, let's see, said